Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. Here's how taxpayers can rebuild records after a natural disaster. IRS Tax Tip 2021-125, August 25th, 2021. After a natural disaster, taxpayers need records to help them prove and recover disaster-related losses. This may be for tax purposes, getting support from federal assistance program, or for insurance claims. While personal or business property may have been destroyed, all hope is not lost. Here are some steps that can help people reconstruct important records. Tax records. Get free tax return transcripts immediately using Get Transcript on IRS.gov. So if there are any problems, you've lost your documentation, you might be able to go to the IRS website, IRS.gov, and look up and pick up your transcripts at that point. You can also set up your account on IRS.gov and possibly get some more information and ability to access information that the IRS has from their side as well. Remember that many of the documents that you have to construct your tax return are given to the IRS. That's how things work. The IRS pressures the payer to give them a copy as well. So that means the employer is not only forced to give you a W-2 for your wages, they're also forced to give the IRS a W-2 for the wages so they can double check it. The same is true for 1099s, your banks, interest, and so on. That information could be on the IRS side of things as well. So if you need to reconstruct something after a disaster, that could be a great tool to remember that you have. Also, if you haven't done prior year tax returns for some time and you think you might be benefiting from doing that, then you might say, hey, I don't have my documentation. Again, one place to start looking possibly is the IRS website. You want to go to the places where the institutions that would be giving you the documentation first, prior employers and the bank and so on. However, if for whatever reason you can't get the information there, maybe you could get the information from the IRS side of things, because once again, it did get sent to the IRS, although you might not get it in the original format as easily, the actual 1099 in other words, but instead a computer kind of printout from the IRS side of things. And the thing that could be missing on that side, sometimes because you're looking at the federal end, is the state withholdings and whatnot with the state side. So depending on your state necessities or your state requirements, whether or not your state has an income tax and whatnot, then you want to take that into consideration if you're rebuilding your records as well. So order transcripts by calling 800-908-9946. There'll be a link to this so you can read that and pick up that phone number again, so I won't read it multiple times here, and follow the prompts. Financial statements. People can gather past statements from their credit card company or bank. So a lot of stuff is basically online. And as more people are doing transactions with electronic transfers, either with credit cards or with electronic bank type of transfers, that means that there's a bigger audit trail, so you can reconstruct a lot more of what is going on, even if the paper document has gone through a flood and is gone or has been burnt up in a fire or something like that. That's a big change from the past, where everything was basically documented, possibly with a paper check, and you'd have to get the canceled checks, or with just simply cash transactions being a larger part of things as well. So that can be really useful to go to your financial institutions and see if you can pick up the documentation with regards to the spending habits and receipts that have been received. So these records may be available online. People can also contact their bank to get paper copies of these statements. Property records. To get documents related to property, homeowners can contact the title company, escrow company, or bank that handle the purchase of their home or other property. So hopefully you can still get the information related to the property records, because it should be basically a public record situation. So hopefully you can pick that up as well. Taxpayers who made home improvements can get in touch with the contractors who did the work and ask for statements to verify the work and cost. So if you've done home improvements, that's going to be important, because the home improvements can be increasing the value of the home and can be included in the basis oftentimes when you sell the home. In other words, when you sell the home, whatever the gain is on the home possibly can be reduced if you have home improvements as basically a part of the cost of the home when you're calculating the calculation of the sales price minus the cost of the home and any improvements, and then any depreciation, and so on and so forth. So they can also get written descriptions from friends and relatives who saw the house before and after any improvements. So that's the kind of documentation you want to, pick up as soon as possible after the natural disaster takes place. Well, it's fresh in your mind, where you can get the context as soon as possible. Well, they don't get too old or whatnot, because when you actually need that information might not be till you sell the property at some later point in time, and then you're trying to figure out what the basis is. And at that point, it's going to be further in the future, and it's going to be more difficult to put together that information again. So you want to make sure you have the information related to substantial improvements on the home as documented as well as possible, to make it easier in the future when that information could be necessary. For inherited property, taxpayers can check court records for appropriate values. So if you have inherited properties, then you might be able to get that information from the probate values. If a trust or estate existed, so if a trust or estate was there, then that's another place you can go. Taxpayers can contact the attorney who handled the trust. So if you have an attorney that put together, of course, the trust or estate, then they're a place to go. They might have a copy of that. When no other records are available, people should check the county assessor's office for old records that might address the value of the property. Car owners can research the current fair value for most vehicles. So if you're looking at the car, then they got a whole bunch of resources to try to get the blue book type of value, the depreciated value in essence of the automobile. Resources are available online and at most libraries. These include Kelly's Blue Book, the National Automobile Dealers Association, and Edmunds. So more publications can be found at the links below. Publication 547, Casualties, Disaster, and Thefts. Publication 584, Casualty, Disaster, and Theft Loss Workbook. Publication 584B, Business Casualty, Disaster, and Theft Loss Workbook. Publication 976, Disaster Relief, Small Business Administration, and disasterassistance.gov. There's links to all that wonderful reading material here, and there'll be a link to this in the description.